So for today, we're going to talk about the respiration and breathing of the throat. I hope you'll learn something from this. Enjoy. Okay, so good day. So today we're gonna talk about respiration and breathing of a toad. So my name is Just Christian C. Abel from STEM 12E6. Okay, so let's start with our objectives. So our objectives is to examine the different parts of the toad, respiratory system, and to describe the mechanisms of breathing under different conditions. And lastly, to observe the relationship oxygen and carbon dioxide levels to breathing rate. Okay, so let's talk about first about respiration. So respiration is the movement of oxygen from the outside environment to the cells within tissues, and the transport of carbon dioxide in the opposite direction. Wherein also breathing is the process of moving air into and out of the lungs to facilitate gas exchange with the internal environment, mostly by bringing in oxygen and flushing out carbon dioxide. So basically, respiration and breathing are the same. Okay, so let's move on to the respiratory system of a toad, which is scientific name is Rhinella marina. Okay, so respiratory system has two respirations. Okay, so first is the cutaneous respiration, which are the diffusion of gases between its blood vessels and the surroundings, while pulmonary respiration allows the exchange of gases in and out of the lungs. So let's talk more about the pulmonary respiration. So, the pulmonary respiration has an order in seven organs. So, the first organ is buccal cavity, external nares, internal nares, glottis, laryngotracheal chamber, lungs, bronchi, and alveoli. So, let's talk first about the buccal cavity. So, the buccal cavity acts as a pump. And as you can see in your illustration, it is there. Okay, so let's move on to the external nares, which are the outer oval openings of the nasal cavity, and it is where air goes in and goes out. Okay, so wherever wherever in the illustration is, it is also like in the nose. Okay, near the nose, or it is in the nose. And next, we're going to talk about the internal nares, which are the two openings found in the toad's buccal cavity and transfers air from the external nares to the mouth. Okay, so it is found in the buccal cavity, right? Which is the first organ we have told you which pumps air, okay, for ventilation. Okay. So next we're going to talk about the glottis. So the glottis is an opening from the mouth to the lungs and also inflates the lungs. So that easy definition. Next is the laryngotracheal chamber. So where the sound of frog is produced. So the true sound. Okay, so as you can hear, maybe at nights or in ponds, you can hear the sound of a toad, right? Okay, so that is where it comes from. Okay, so let's talk about the lungs. So basically, the lung supplies the frog with air, and it's also the main respiratory organ. So without the lungs, you can't breathe. Okay, so let's move on to the bronchi. So bronchi are the airwaves that lead from the trachea into the lungs. Okay, so there. And lastly, alveoli is greatly increases the surface area to air for gases exchange. So it makes it possible for gases exchange. Okay, let's wrap up and review. Okay, so buccal cavity acts as a pump. External nares is where air goes in and out. Internal nares transfers air from the external nares to the mouth, and the glottis inflates the lungs. Laryngotracheal chamber is where the sound of a frog is produced. Lungs is the main respiratory organ and supplies the frog with air. The bronchi are the airways that leads from the trachea into the lungs. And lastly, alveoli increases the surface area to air for gaseous exchange. Okay, so let's have a review of the respiratory system and its flow. So, in the first stage of pulmonary respiration starts when the toad closes its mouth and lowers the floor of its buccal cavity, which acts as a pump. As a result, the air enters through the outer oval openings of the nasal cavity, called the external nares, which air is further drawn into the internal nares, which are the two openings found in the roof of the toad's buccal cavity. The air cannot pass through yet because into the lungs because the glottis, which is an opening from the mouth into the lungs, remains closed. So in the second stage, The spent air from the elastic lungs is released as the glottis opens rapidly. The air moves through the buccal cavity and is released through the open ears. And in the third stage, the fresh air held in the buccal cavity is drawn to the lungs as the nares close. The floor of the buccal cavity rises and the glottis opens. And in the last stage, the glottis closes while retaining the air in the lungs and the nares open again. Okay, so that's it for the respiratory system method. Let's move on to the physiology, physiology of breathing in humans, or the scientific name Homo sapiens. So, in the physiology of breathing in humans, there are two: inspiration and expiration. So, in inspiration, diaphragm contracts in order to increase the volume of the chest cavity, while in expiration, diaphragm relaxes and the pressure in the chest cavity increases beyond the atmospheric pressure. And inspiration, it leads to the air movement from the atmosphere into lungs due to the buildup of negative pressure. While in expiration, it allows air to move out of the lungs. Okay, so I'm giving you an illustration of inspiration and expiration. So in inspiration, the thoracic cavity expands, while in expiration, thoracic cavity reduces. And in inspiration, external intercostal muscles contract, while in expiration, external intercostal muscles relax. And in inspiration, the diaphragm contracts, and expiration, diaphragm relaxes. So it's basically just the opposite of it. Okay? So the inspiration is opposite of expiration, and expiration is the opposite of inspiration. Okay, so thank you so much. So here are my sources, and hi, thank you so much for listening to my discussion. I hope you have learned more on the breathing and respiration of the code. So see you soon in my future discussions. Take care and God bless. Stay safe. Okay, thank you so much.